Somalia. So I wanted to get your take on the latest scandal around Somalians in Minnesota. This is an accusation that there's been lots of fraud against American taxpayers. Were you surprised when you found out that these accusations existed?
No, I wasn't surprised because I think I first heard of this fraud in Minnesota perpetrated by some Somalis, I think as far back as 2013 or 2014. There were suitcases full of money that were being, and I think maybe that's how it was discovered. They were trying to fly out with the money, and someone had discovered it, and it had to do with daycare centers. So I vaguely remember that, reading about it, and then in the other time thinking, A, the money might be going to al-Shabab, and B, it's in the news, and so, the relevant authorities will handle it.
Is there something in the kind of Somali culture?
I don't want you up there. I want you here. Let's go back there. See if that will start again. Why don't you want to play? Well, I don't know.
So obviously you're from Somalia, so I wanted to get your take on the latest scandal around Somalians in Minnesota. This is an accusation that there's been lots of fraud against American taxpayers. Were you surprised when you found out that these accusations existed?
No, I wasn't surprised because I think I first heard of this fraud in Minnesota perpetrated by some Somalis, I think as far back as 2013 or 2014. There were suitcases full of money that were being, and I think maybe that's how it was discovered. They were trying to fly out with the money, and someone had discovered it, and it had to do with daycare centers. So I vaguely remember that, reading about it, and then in the other time thinking, A, the money might be going to al-Shabab, and B, it's in the news, and so, the relevant authorities will handle it.
Is there something in the kind of Somali culture that might lend towards what they've done or what they've been accused of doing, this mass fraud? Why do you think it's the Somali community in particular that has seemingly been committing these crimes?
This is Pegasus. Fly to new adventures with Smob.
It's a good question. I mean, honestly, you leave the country because of corruption, and then look. I mean, you can't single just the Somalian community, but at the end of the day, if you're committing such crimes, then you've got to be singled out, haven't you? If you're prepared to fly with the crows, you be prepared to be shot at. I was once told. So, yeah, that's shocking, but not unbelievable, and they're not the only ones doing that.
Did you know you can go to university without GCSEs or A-level?
They're proper good flights.
Government-funded degrees are now available in cities like...
So I think the question that you pose...
Pegasus and... Was it? Iceland. One of the Iceland airlines. I got stuck in New York. And... there was a volcano. It's funny that though. It was a volcano smog. It was a volcano smog. A volcano erupted. So when I got to JFK Airport, this was in the winter. I think it might have been around November or such. And then got to the airport. Flight's been cancelled. And I remember, luckily my sister lived not too far away from the airport, and obviously I was staying with her, so went back to my sister's house. But walking through the airport and seeing everyone, they were on the floor, and they were, had their bags and that, and it was freezing, and the floor didn't look clean at all. I mean, it's a busy airport, but yeah, it was a crazy time. So the volcano erupted, and then my flight was cancelled because of the ash so they couldn't see. But then I got a flight to Iceland. So I went to Iceland, and then getting on that plane, it was a wonderful flight. I think it was one of the best flights I've ever taken. And the people were quiet. They were quiet, and there wasn't anyone staring at me and that, because, you know, a black guy being on a plane by himself, going to Iceland, I thought, well, there's no black people there. There probably is. But yeah, it was calm. It was really nice. It was a nice flight, and then I got to Iceland, and when I got to Iceland, had to stay there for about 5 hours for a connecting flight. So I spent that time looking out the window. I wanted to look out and see the landscape. Couldn't see anything. It was so dark. I was like, why is it so dark? You know, I'm thinking, I can't remember the time, but it wasn't night time, right? It would have been in the daytime, because yeah, my flight, yeah, it was in the daytime. So I'm looking out the window thinking, what's going on there? So I was looking for travel information, see if I could have got, sometimes if I go to an airport and I've got, say, 3, 4, 5 hours, I'll just get the train into town or into the city and come back. And a little bit of sightseeing. I'm a bit adventurous like that. So anyway, so I've looked at the travel information. I thought, nah, this is not a good idea. And plus the ash from the volcano. So anyway, get back on the flight now, coming back to London, and I looked out the window and I'm like, why is it so dark? Why is it so dark? And then I see this little hole like this, and it looked like it. What I could see was like a hole, but there was that light was coming through it. And I thought, what is that? And the plane went through it, and all of a sudden it was light. So when I got home, I was like, you know, research, and I was like, oh, Iceland, they have a period of time that is darkness, you know, just like I think Greenland and stuff, places like that. They have like 6 months of light and 6 months of dark. There's a film as well with, I think Al Pacino starred in it. Can't remember the title, but it's about living in those conditions. Anyway, back to the video.
On culture is really the most important question. This is not to say that other ethnic groups do not commit fraud and any of that. It's also not to say that all Somalis commit fraud, but it's to say that the Somali culture, going as far back as hundreds of years, is radically different from the modern Western nation-state culture of citizenship and individual responsibility. The Somali culture is divided into clans, and it's operated by the clan code and the clan culture, and that is collective and collectivist. There's no property rights the way we interpret property rights in the West. There's also what's inside the clan and how the moral system that operates within the clan and governs, let's call it the insiders, the in-group. And then there's the code of how you are to interact with out-group people. So if I try and use this analysis to understand what's going on in Minnesota, if there are conversations about applying for benefits, taking those benefits for things that they're not supposed, saying that you're starting a daycare, there's no daycare, but you take the money. In a clan moral discussion, it would be, what are you going to spend the money on? Do you think we can be caught or not caught? It doesn't go straight away to, this is immoral and wrong. There'll be some individuals probably who have been long enough in America to understand, hey, that's a crime and it's a bad thing to do here. But those individuals will be quickly silenced and quickly sidelined. But broadly speaking, the clan will say, hey, this is providential, this is, it's rizq, it's sustenance from God, and then take that money. And so I think this is also part of where this clan loyalty.
Sustenance from God, Well, I mean, if you believe in God and, as you said, you got some reward, you think God gave it to you. So why not take it? And why not embrace it?
I think there was, I wrote a piece about it, where I had cited Edward Banfield, who had studied a Sicilian tribe, in the 1950s or 1960s. And it's what they call amoral vandalism, is what Edward Banfield called it. And it's something along those lines. It is blind loyalty to the group. And it's
That's one thing you cannot deny about the Somali community. They're very close-knit, especially in the UK. I mean, I don't know what they're like in Somalia but from what I've seen, they are very close knit. Don't get much out of them. If you get them one on one, they're you know, normal. You've got, you know, different types. You've got some that are more say Western minded. You have some that are just like anybody else. You're gonna have different characters. I've found, especially being from Jamaican parentage, I've never had a problem with the Somalian communities. Never really spoke to many of the women, and I just respect it like that. I don't really put myself out there to, you know, try and say hello. I would say hello, you know, and there has been a few times they said hello, but there's a few times where they blank me, you know what I mean? So I just like, you know what, I won't say anything to them, you know. So yeah, they're just like a, you know, they're very distinctive, Somalians. I find them very distinctive as Africans, but it's very difficult to generalise, you know. And as I said, I haven't met that majority of them, but from what I've observed, they are very close knit, a close knit community, very similar to the Asian communities. And sometimes I do, and the Jewish, and I always think to myself, why aren't Caribbeans like that, you know? Or, you know, suppose we are in a way, like the elders and stuff like that. But I think that's something that's been eroding in our community in diaspora. Yeah, but I presume they have the same problems that every other community has. But I liked what she said about the she found evidence as well. Someone had done their research, and she also has her own experiences from being from Somalian heritage. I also fear for this woman because, I mean, I think, you know, she has to be careful, and I hope she's well, and I hope no one don't trouble her. You know what I mean? She should be allowed to say what she wants. You know, because you know, people got to grow. There was something I found out about Somalians, that education has not really been widespread. Now I could be wrong, so I'll put in the comment section. But I got that news. I can't remember where I was, either from the radio or, sure, it must have been from the radio, but that's all I really listen to. I don't watch TV. I listen to the radio. So there was some report on it, and I thought, ooh, you know, because they don't say much to you, you know. They keep a lot in. Don't blame them.
Expectation that everyone else is doing it, and if you don't do it, you're a sucker. So that clan mentality meets with this crazy business model of the Democratic Party today, where they think, the Democratic Party leadership think, that they can control the ethnic vote. And so then you get this symbiotic relationship between the Somalis, who think, wow, this flow of money, that's great, and have no moral qualms about taking that money and abusing the system. And a system that readily provides that money, because you can circulate, you can bring some of the money back and donate it to these politicians.
So yeah, the you know, the Democrat Party, the left side, same thing in the UK. I mean, being from Jamaican parentage, born in this country, and you know, you get the feeling that others are getting, you know, you can see people have benefited, you know, from being in this country. Would I have changed it? I personally said, well, I wouldn't have. You know, that's what makes England England, and that's why they come here, because of the safety and stuff like that. And I always believe that. You know, I live in London, and London is the greatest city on the planet. You know, cities are great in different ways. I mean, I rather enjoyed the area I stayed in Jamaica. I thought that was a, you know, wonderful place. If I had to choose, I would choose there. You know, I loved it there. But saying that, I've been to many countries and they can't compete, you know, with the different cultures, and it's pretty safe. It's very safe. Now I hear a lot of people saying that it's not safe, and these people are saying, some of these people are saying these things. They don't live in London. Now, whether or not it's scary or not, that's a different, you know. But England is not dangerous compared to where. Safe compared to other places. Safe. That's why people are here. You know, they know. And then obviously, with that level of safety and with that level of care, it does need to be looked at. But again, I wouldn't want it any different, because I think that is what most countries should do. They should do that. They should take care of their people. If their people live in their country, you know, like for example, America you have to pay for healthcare and stuff like that. So shout out to the NHS, you know, and I wouldn't want it any different, to be honest. And for me personally, London is the greatest city on the planet. You know, greatest city on the planet. That's my opinion. A lot of people have been talking bad about it, but no. If you live here, then you know, and then you got to come with your evidence to say why that is, not something made up in your head. I mean, look, I can imagine some people are going to feel uncomfortable. I think a lot of us are feeling uncomfortable in some ways, but apart from the feeling uncomfortable, that's not a good enough reason to say, oh, you know, to kind of to criminalize a community, you know. And also the communities that come here, for myself, I can say that the Jamaican community, they didn't do themselves no favours, you know, certain crimes and that, or being associated with certain things. It does happen. Every community goes through that, but for me, that's my community, so that's something that, you know, I wish we didn't take any part. But you know, look, people will do that. So yeah, I like this lady, so I hope she keeps well.